Summer storms can be damaging and deadly. Today on Your Money, what you should do if you get damage, how long the insurance process takes, and the protections you need, and building a better home for the future, how builders are making stronger homes that can survive extreme weather. It's all coming up next. Welcome to Your Money. I'm Gordon Severson, here to help you save, spend, and invest your money wisely. And today we're talking about weather, specifically bad weather, how you can make sure your home is protected, and the steps you should take if a storm rolls through your neighborhood. And we'll start today's episode at the very beginning of the process, preparation. Let's take a look at a common misconception about preparing for a hurricane or a tornado. There's an old belief that says you should open your doors and windows to keep dangerous pressure from building up inside your home. But experts say you should do the exact opposite. Officials with Storm-Type Windows, a hurricane impact window company, says keeping windows and doors open can allow strong winds to enter your home, and it could blow off your roof in the process. Along with keeping your exterior windows and doors closed, the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety says you should close all of your interior doors too. They say keeping them closed will compartmentalize the pressure into smaller areas and reduce the force on your roof. Special thanks to our Verify team for bringing us that story. The team also looked into some claims about flooding, that homeowners and renters insurance policies don't typically cover flooding damage. Here's what Brandon Lewis from the Verify team found when he checked out these claims.
Severe weather can bring significant rainfall and damaging storm surges, which floods low-lying communities. While most people have traditional homeowners or renters insurance, some people may find they might not have coverage to rebuild after a flood. So, let's verify. Do homeowners and renters insurance policies typically cover flood damage? Our sources are the Florida Division of Emergency Management, the Insurance Information Institute, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and insurance companies Allstate and Amica. Homeowners insurance is a way to repair or rebuild your home after something bad happens. Homeowners insurance, along with renters, also helps cover the costs to replace your belongings. When you buy a policy, insurance companies will give you a detailed list of what is and isn't covered. The major insurance companies we check with say flooding isn't covered in standard policies, but you can purchase separate flood insurance from a private company or a policy that's backed by FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program. So, no. Homeowners and renters insurance policies do not typically cover flood damage. Flood insurance policies usually require you to purchase them at least 30 days before they take effect. If you didn't buy coverage ahead of time, FEMA also offers some assistance to people who live in areas that receive a presidential disaster declaration, but it's typically much less than what flood insurance would cover. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Standard homeowners and renters insurance policies don't typically cover earthquake damage either. Wildfire damage is often covered by standard insurance policies, though specific coverage varies. Some standard homeowners insurance policies do cover tornado damage, but you may need to purchase additional coverage if you live in a storm-prone area. Another common type of storm damage involves the trees in your neighborhood. What happens if your tree falls on your neighbor's home or their tree falls onto yours? Scott Broom breaks down what we all need to know.
Wow, big old tree like that, right next to this house. I don't like it.
But a tornado, or even a run-of-the-mill thunderstorm, is what insurers call an act of God. And no matter where that tree came from that may have hit your house or damaged your property, it's your insurance, not your neighbor's, that must cover the loss. Michael Berry of the Insurance Information Institute has handled this question for WUSA 9 before.
The claim starts wherever the tree fell. So if the tree fell on your house, even if it wasn't your tree, you should file a claim.
The same goes for damage to your vehicles. According to insurance expert, your insurance company, not your neighbors or the city, is going to take the hit. Now, there is an important exception, according to insurance experts. If you made a complaint or notification in writing about a neighboring tree threatening your property a reasonable time before an unforeseen storm with documentation like photos, your insurance company could have a cause to go after your neighbor for compensation. Nothing short of a certified letter will do in that circumstance. And watch out for being underinsured. Many homeowners' policies might cover damage to your house from a fallen tree, but not fully cover removing tree debris from your property that isn't directly related to the claim on the house. Insurance experts say about 20% of vehicle policies are not comprehensive and may not fully cover tree damage. So check your policies by reading the fine print and be prepared to pay more if you need more coverage. It does not help that insurance rates are skyrocketing as climate change drives a record number of storm-related claims across the country. For Environment Matters, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.
Experts say you should check the fine print of your policies. If you find that you're not protected enough, you can always reach out to your insurance agent for more coverage. There's always that trade-off, though, spending more money now to save money down the road. Or should you risk it? It's all up to you. Besides insurance, there is another way to get help after a disaster. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, may offer some financial help if your home is hit by a disaster. But the application process can be tricky. Grace White breaks down all of it for us.
I want to emphasize the importance of getting that application in as soon as possible.
We asked Lanisha Smith with FEMA how much time it takes to go through the application process.
Is there an average timeline for payouts, weeks, months? I mean, some people just wonder, is it something they'll wait a year on?
I won't say a year for most. That would have to be in an extreme circumstance. It can range from 3 days, 7 days, or up to 2 weeks.
And you have to live in one of these 7 counties to be eligible: Harris, Liberty, Montgomery, Polk, San Jacinto, Trinity, or Walker. How much money can you get? There's $750 available to cover household essential items. A new displacement benefit announced this year to keep people in the housing of their choice, whether they choose a hotel or Airbnb. And also new, up to $42,500 to cover home repairs not covered by insurance.
I always encourage survivors to apply with their insurance first. And this is because, and we've mentioned this before, that FEMA can't duplicate benefits. So we do need to know what your insurance claim will be before we can determine what you'll be eligible for through FEMA.
What is the easiest way to apply? Do you find that consumers have shorter wait times or shorter processing times if the application is done online versus the phone?
Fastest way to apply is through disasterassistance.gov. There's no hold time or anything. You can just go online and put your information and get your application started there.
Now, if your home or business is insured, you can still apply for FEMA, but you can't double dip and get money from both. FEMA is designed to cover the expenses that your insurance doesn't. Coming up after the break, I sit down with an insurance rep. We talk tips and tricks that you should know before, during, and after severe weather hits. So stay tuned. Most of us have never had to file a claim on our house with severe weather, and so I thought it was a great idea to bring someone who deals with this all the time. I brought Aaron Cocking from the Insurance Federation of Minnesota into the studio here to help us plan for severe weather damage, walk us through the process. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity to be back, Gordon.
So I guess the first question I had is, if someone has damage to their home from a tornado, a windstorm, hailstorm, or a hurricane, what should they do first? What should be the first couple of things they do?
One of the first things you want to do is just make sure that the property is safe, right? I mean, if you smell gas, if you've got down power lines, we want to make sure that the property is safe. And once you've done that, one of the things that we want to see from the insurance standpoint is kind of doing whatever you can to mitigate further loss while being as safe as possible, right? I mean, so if you've got shingles that have blown off, or you've got water coming into the house, if you can safely do so, putting tarps or something else to kind of mitigate that loss. And that is something that will be covered by your your insurance. So we encourage people to save their receipts, because if you've gone through that process and you've helped mitigate that loss, those are costs that'll be recoverable. The other thing we would suggest is for people to take photos and videos. I mean, so you want to know and you want to document the damage, look at it, get as many pictures and videos as you can from when the storm occurs.
Because a lot of times when these storms happen, there's damage, but then there's another rainstorm that might come in the next day or two, and I'm sure it's important to secure the roof or your home so for that more rain coming.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you don't want, if you've got wind that comes through and blows off all of your shingles, and then you've got a rainstorm coming in behind that. I mean, that's the stuff that can do, significant damage as it leaks down into your attic or into your walls.
Could you see a situation where if someone didn't do everything they could to secure it and there's more damage, could there be an argument from, an insurance company to say like, oh, we're not going to cover that the same way because is there some problems there?
I think that's unlikely. I mean, I think it's just kind of a best process. I mean, that you want to be able to mitigate it, because it's going to save the homeowner the time and hassle of kind of a more extensive damage or more extensive renovation, which I think, going through the claims process, we all try to want to minimize and avoid as much as possible.
One thing I've always wondered is, even if you have something that's like minor, like maybe a small hailstorm that like, I wouldn't say it's like not golf ball size, not even like maybe like pea size, and you're wondering like how should you go about like checking that out on your roof? You don't want to like obviously just have the first person that comes to your door, let me go up on your roof. How do you go about checking that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I had this experience in my own house just a couple weeks ago. We got hail where I live on Memorial Day weekend, and a couple days later I get this storm chaser that shows up at my door and says, you had 1.5 inch size hail that hit your house. And I had gone out after the storm had come through and had scooped up the hail and take a picture of it, and it's just the tiny hail. He's like, no, it's 1.5 inch size hail. You've got damage. And so I let him go up my roof, and sure enough, as kind of storm chasers do, they found damage. And he's like, you really need to send this off to your insurance company. And I think that's one of the things. If you've got questions, I think the storm chasers are always going to tell you that you've got damage of some way, shape, or form. But you can reach out to your insurance company and say, I had this guy that came by, suggested that I had significant damage. Can you send an adjuster out to be able to look and see if there's actually damage and if it's worthwhile for me to file a claim?
For sure. And I'm sure that goes with like windstorms and everything too. Like I'm sure there's some damage like to your siding or to your home you can see, but if you're always wondering, you can always just call your insurance company.
Yeah, exactly. You think about it, I mean, you've got the coverage, you've got the protection for a reason. Obviously all of this is subject to your deductible, so you're going to be out of pocket to a certain extent, and that's up to the policyholder then to determine, is the value of the damage that occurred to my property worthwhile, relevant to the deductible that I'm going to pay.
So if you have damage and you want to go through the insurance process, what is that like? Like how, if you ask for an adjuster to come out, is it like that day or a couple days? And then how long until the process plays out and you kind of get reimbursed for everything?
Yeah, it really varies because, if you've got an instance that comes through and you've got one town or community or neighborhood that's significantly hit, really hard, obviously you're going to have a lot of insurance companies that are going to be really busy trying to get their adjusters out, trying to bring people in to look at those losses and kind of determine what the scope of the damage is. Once you get that evaluation, you can select a contractor. The insurance companies generally will give you the amount up front for the actual, what's called the actual cash value damage to your property. And then once you've gone through replacing it and you've had your contractor come out and kind of either replace the roof or replace the siding, then the insurance company will pay you back for that replacement cost if your policy has that coverage on it.
For sure. One thing, we've talked about this in previous interviews, but how much is severe weather affecting the industry right now of insurance and prices?
Yeah, wind and hail, severe convective storms, obviously a significant driver as we've talked about, and I think most people have probably followed extensively as they're getting their renewals and they're like, oh my gosh, what is driving this? It's the wind, it's the hail, it's the replacement of roofs, it's the storm chasers that are coming out convincing everybody that any slight damage on their roof, that they should turn it in and get a brand new roof. All all of the losses and all of those costs that insurers are bearing to pay out for losses have to be recouped in premium. And that's kind of the basics of how insurance work, is that as we pay out losses, that money has to be collected back in premium to be able to pay out those future losses.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are worried about, filing a claim and having their premiums jacked up because they made a claim. How much of that is real and legit, and what might people see if they do see an increase?
So Minnesota is unique in that if you have losses that are due to weather, insurance companies can't take adverse action on that. Now, Minnesota specifically had a law change that the legislature passed this year that if you end up with 3 or more losses resulting from wind or hail or kind of severe weather that are over $10,000, insurers can look at that and determine if they want to continue writing that coverage. And that's good for all of us, because you get a lot of these people in some instances that'll just claim after claim after claim after claim, which drives the costs up for all the rest of us. And so trying to weed out some of those more aggressive filers that are costing all of us, we hope will make a little bit of difference on these premium costs.
How about other states? Where are they kind of at with that issue?
I think some states, it's kind of across the board. I know for sure in Minnesota where we're at, a lot of other states don't have kind of the same restrictions that Minnesota had before. And I think largely because as you look at it, you want to be able to allow for kind of an evaluation of what that risk is. If an insurer is like, gosh, you're in an area and every time it hails, we're constantly getting hammered, or anytime the wind blows, you're ending up with these claims. Insurers are looking at that kind of what's best for the rest of their policyholders too.
You touched on something earlier that I think would be important to address is, if you do have the damage and you have these storm chasers that come to your property and they want to take a look and everything like that, are there instances where you should be aware that your insurance company may not cover a certain company or a certain service, or if it gets too expensive, like because they're price gouging you? What should you be keeping an eye out for there?
Yeah, I don't think the concern is necessarily that an insurer is not going to necessarily pay a specific contractor, but an insurer is definitely going to come out and they're going to send their adjuster, and they're going to determine what the scope of the work is and what the cost of what a kind of normal company or what the value of that loss should be. And if you've got a company that's jacking up the cost of what their bid is going to be, an insurer may push back against that, and you may have they'll kind of work that out. We certainly, when you get a guy that comes to your door and rings the doorbell and says, I think you've got storm damage, there's a couple of things that we certainly encourage people to do. Number one, you want to make sure that they're a licensed contractor in the state of Minnesota, and so you can get their license registration number and you can look up on the Department of Labor and Industry's website, and I think this is the case for most states. The other thing in Minnesota specifically is that you need to hire a licensed contractor, because in the event that they don't complete the work, or there's other issues with them finalizing it, or you've given them money and they're not doing it, only licensed contractors you're able to recover back from the contractor recovery fund that is available here in Minnesota, and that's significant. We'd also encourage people not to be kind of pressured by these high pressured sales tactics when somebody comes to your door and is like, you've got damage and you got to replace it right now, and we're the only ones that can do it, and we're going to cut you a great deal now, but only if you sign on the dotted line now. You need to take a step back, take a deep breath. I know that after a loss, things can be overwhelming and a lot can be going on, but take a deep breath and really evaluate what's best. One of the things that we obviously encourage, and that in Minnesota there's a law change that's dealing with, is that we're requiring now for contractors to provide a good faith estimate on what the cost of their services are going to be, and that's something that's important regardless of where you live, to ask for a good faith estimate on what this is going to cost, because a lot of times they'll just say, oh, Gordon, we'll just give you whatever the insurance company, we'll just do it for whatever the insurance company is going to pay you for. And in the event that they don't think that it's enough, they're going to go back and they're going to hassle with the insurance company and ask for more. And if it's more than they would have done it for I don't think there's any scenario in which they give it back.
Yeah, that's a good idea of like when the adjuster comes out and they figure out the damage that they might have a window. That kind of gives you an idea, so that if you do hear a number from a contractor that's way out of bounds, then your radar should be going up that this might not be a reputable company. If it's like 3 times more,
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. One of the other things that I would just mention as people are looking at is one of the best things that you can do is really before the storm actually hits. I mean, talking to your agent and make sure you have the coverage that's necessary, and then doing simple things like making sure that your trees are trimmed appropriately, making sure that your gutters are cleared out so that the rainwater is effectively going away from your house. If it's raining like it has been, we've seen significantly here in the last couple of weeks, kind of monitoring your sump pump on a regular basis to make sure that it's working, that it's kicking the water out the way that it should, so that if you can identify an issue before it becomes a major problem and a major claim that you're going to have to file.
Yeah, because I know I've done a lot of news stories on this, is that prevention is so much better.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, thanks so much for coming down to the studio and walking us through all of this.
Yeah, thanks for a chance to do this, Gordon.
Still to come, hurricane-resistant homes. Can they survive a storm? Stay with us here on Your Money. Welcome back. The hurricane season is now in full swing, and this year is predicted to be an active one in the Atlantic. NOAA predicts there will be 17 to 25 named storms. They also say 8 to 13 of those storms will be hurricane strength, and 4 to 7 of those could be major hurricanes, meaning a Category 3 or stronger. Now, there are some simple things that make a big difference to lower your home's storm risk. Meg Ferris spoke with some home builders who shared some great tips on how to protect your home.
Let's start with advice from the Home Builders Association of Greater New Orleans with what you should do now.
Make sure that you've got your plywood cutouts or you've got shutters. Make sure that you're locking your garage door and bracing it, because that's a big area of weakness in your home. It's trimming the trees around your property and making it safe in advance.
One of the main things you can do now in anticipation of storms coming is have a contractor come out and look at your roof now to see if there are any weak spots that they can tighten up.
A lot of roofing companies offer free inspections. I'm a firm believer within a 5-year span, you should have a qualified contractor that offers inspections come out.
Ask if reinforcement braces in your attic will make your roof stronger. Change the turbine attic vent to a flat one-piece instead of the 2-piece taller one that is more easily ripped off by high wind. Consider a wind mitigation survey by a state-approved inspector like KARE.
The more information and more documentation that we have on these, the better it is for their knowledge, for the insurance side, to keep them in the state.
If you're renovating or building, inspectors like KARE follow every step, making sure it's above code standards to certify it for an insurance discount. Now, after the storm, Mighty Dog Roofing says blue tarps can just blow away.
I need to put an underlayment down. If it's put on correctly, you have time to wait your insurance out, and your house is not going to take on any more damage.
If you have more than 50% roof damage, now you'll need a Jefferson Parish permit before you fix it.
You can do it online, and we don't have to have an inspector come to your house. We will take, the geofixed imagery and photographs to approve the permit.
Keep a list of your reputable contractors so you don't have to worry about storm chasers knocking at your door. And if they are a member of your parish's Home Builders Association, you know they're local, licensed, and insured. Meg Ferris, WWL, Louisiana.
To end our episode, we're heading back to the very beginning, making a home storm ready while it's being built. Robert Speta talked to a man who built a hurricane-resistant home in one of the most hurricane-prone areas in the country. What he says is essential to make sure your home is ready for anything Mother Nature throws at it.
The average number of hurricanes each year increase and insurance rates through the roof. We are all looking for a way to keep our homes safe. To get some advice on this, I traveled to Bay St. Louis, Mississippi to talk to this man, Josh Morgan. He's been in the eye of 70 hurricanes, more than any human alive.
Decided to build a house here. One issue here is that this is ground zero for some of the greatest hurricane disasters in American history, like Hurricane Katrina, like Category 5 Hurricane Camille. So I was like, all right, if I'm going to build a home here, it has to be designed and built right. It has to be hurricane tough. So this is a special house that I built. Now it looks very traditional. It looks like a, a typical kind of old Southern home. That's the style of it. It's a shotgun house, but there's a lot going on in these walls to make this a fortified gold home, to make this absolutely rock solid. This place is a vault.
This has to do with bringing an inspector in to monitor the building of the home.
And the way it works is as you're building the house, you have a third-party evaluator work with you and guide you along the process as you're building. So they look at what you're doing and they give you and your builder certain sort of like suggestions or things they want you to do to reinforce connection points and things like that. You do all the things they ask, and then you get a certificate that says your home is fortified gold. That certificate lowers your insurance rates considerably, and it gives you peace of mind. You know your house is not going to blow down in high winds.
But not everybody is building a brand new home. So what are some things that a homeowner can do to hurricane-proof their existing house?
I mean, the roof is one of the most important things, because if the roof rips off, it's game over, okay? But if it stays on, you'll probably be okay. So is it old? Do you need to re-roof? Now, if you can swing it, the best kind of roof is a standing seam metal roof. That's the kind that you want. Those are the kinds that you have in places that get crazy hurricane winds. Next thing I'll say is, how are your windows? Are they impact glass, or do you have shutters or some way to cover them? You should have one or the other. The important thing is that your windows need to be covered when a hurricane is coming, because this is really interesting. It's not just because, oh, you don't want broken glass or you don't want rain to get in. It's because if you get a broken window in a hurricane and the wind actually gets in the house, that could amplify the structural damage. One of the most important things is your siding, okay? A lot of people have rotted old wood siding, or they have that soft vinyl. Okay, you need something solid. I very strongly suggest a fiber cement siding, because this stuff, it doesn't rot, it doesn't mold, it's impact resistant, it's water repellent, it doesn't burn, okay? That's one of the best things you can do, is reside your house with James Hardie. That's the best brand. Use that. That's basically like encasing your house in a coat of armor. So those are three important things that you could do.
In Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta, First Coast News, on your side.
Well, we'll see how it does. If that home survives a few major hurricanes, I'm sure people will be lining up ready to build one of their own. That's all we have for this severe weather special here on Your Money. You don't want to mess around with severe weather. I personally witnessed the devastation after Hurricane Ian 2 years ago. I traveled down to Fort Myers Beach to help our sister station, 10 Tampa Bay. It was my first and only time covering a hurricane. These are just a few of the pictures I took when I was down there. Homes ripped apart by the powerful wind. Boats tossed around like toys. When I spoke with homeowners, many said the biggest loss was their family pictures and heirlooms. So besides the insurance on your home, think about insurance for those memories, finding a way to keep them safe when disaster strikes. On that incredibly depressing moment, I want to say thank you for watching us here on Your Money. I'm Gordon Severson, helping you save, spend, and invest your money wisely. I'll see you next time.